You often hear me advertising my masterclasses here on my podcast, or you maybe follow me on Instagram, and I'm constantly talking about masterclasses and webinars. And you might be wondering, what's the benefit? This is episode 215, Why a Masterclass Can Truly Change Your Life. I'm Dara Thomason, and this is the Quilters Coach podcast. I'm here to show you what can happen when you put yourself in a situation and what kind of growth can happen from that. If you are ready to maybe be convinced of something that you have some doubt about, I'm up for the challenge. Before we go into this podcast about the importance of putting yourself in a situation like a masterclass or a webinar, I want to share a win that I have with a client. The reason I share these wins is because I used to be like you. I used to be someone who didn't know what direction I wanted to go in, and I'd feel afraid of failing ahead of time. And so I just liked keeping status quo. I knew what I was really good at, and I felt like I didn't want to waste any time on failing and tweaking, especially when I had other people's judgment at my disposal. That was just too frightening. And so when you can hear these examples of these women in my membership, you can think, oh, I'm like that. And if they can make these changes, why not me? So I want to share a win from a client. This is from a member who recently joined, and one of the reasons she joined is she saw her mother struggling with neuropathy, with all of these challenges, and she'd ask her mom about it, and her mom would just say, that's just normal. That's just what happens when you age. And she realized that's not normal. You don't have to have all of these problems. And as she was listening to my podcast, and she did in fact come to several of my masterclasses before joining, she realized that she can change her relationship with food. And within the first 4 weeks, she was down 9 pounds. And it was because she said, my head is in the right place. It's just me. So she's no longer blaming her mom. She's not blaming her genes. She's not blaming her job, the stress, none of that. She's actually taking responsibility for her results. And that's amazing. At age 56, she's just finally saying, nope, this is on me. I'm going to figure this out. I'm no longer using excuses. We actually have a really, really helpful tool inside my membership that's if you had a police dog that would smell stuff out, this tool helps smell out excuses. All right. I want to talk about what happens in a masterclass because I actually didn't know what to expect. Like going online and doing these different kinds of classes, a webinar, a masterclass, it's kind of awkward. You don't really know what to expect. So I thought it'd be really helpful to walk through what does a masterclass look like and why is it worth your time? Most of the masterclasses that I teach are 3 to 4 hours, and they're over 3 to 4 days, so an hour a day. And I've been doing these for a long time. I really love them. I'm an insatiable learner. Not only am I an insatiable learner, but I also I love teaching. I taught elementary school for 10 years. I taught quilting, and I just love teaching, and I love thinking about all the different learning styles and all the different experiences that people have. And I love to think of what are different angles, what are different ways that I can approach these problems, because I know that we're all so unique and different. We're all on our own journey. And so it's always a really great challenge in my brain of thinking, how do I explain weight loss to a perfectionist or to a people pleaser or to a procrastinator? How do I help a quilter who loves this challenge of all these different fabrics and these different patterns and combining the math of the quilting with the creativity? how could they relate to weight loss and mindset tools and life coaching, and how do I explain life coaching? So anyways, I love that challenge. My brain, some people love doing puzzles and all of those kinds of things. I love teaching in different ways and coming up with new classes. At the time that I'm recording this, I'm actually in the middle of teaching a masterclass that's all about perfectionism and why it's really hard to change when you're a perfectionist. It's been a really interesting class because I will bring up, so for example, the first day we're looking at what is perfectionism in the first place. Perfectionism was a survival strategy we used as little kids to belong to the tribe. And so I talk about how perfectionism really is a way for you to keep safe, how our survival brains are wired. I'm teaching you about the higher brain, the lower brain, our survival strategies, how we are wired to reduce pain, conserve energy, and have pleasure. We talk about our thoughts, the power of our thoughts. I'm introducing you to concepts of how a human operates. I speak English proficiently because that's the language I learned. But if someone said to me, so why do you say it that way? Why wouldn't you put that word in front of that word? I don't know, even though I was a school teacher, I don't know all of the detailed reasons why English is a certain way. Because conjunctions and all those things, I don't think that way. I just know what sounds right. I just know what intuitively what the rules are. When we start learning how our brain works and how that lower brain is there to try to keep us safe, try to conserve energy. It's always looking for danger. If there's something that feels dangerous, we will recoil. If we start knowing that, then we can plan for that. And then if we know that our higher brain is, we want to put ourselves out there. A higher brain is like the CEO brain that says it's okay to take risks. You don't have to recoil. In fact, go towards it, right? Embrace that challenge, and then you can be so much better. One of the things that happened in this, what is happening in this masterclass, is at the end of each class, we've walked through what are some of the principles of being a human, what are these new concepts. They are the concepts of being a human, but now you're having awareness of them. We ask several questions. People can ask for coaching. They can ask for assistance, guidance, direction. And then we have time for journaling. This is the first time I've done this in this masterclass, and I'm going to be doing this moving forward. What I've done is I put a 10-minute timer on the board, and people can choose to stay and journal if they want, or they can leave. In these classes, as you start learning about yourself and about you're opening the door to this awareness, but then when the class is over, you're like, oh, that's a lot. Then you want to go maybe get some carrots and hummus, or you want to start scrolling on your phone, or maybe you go and talk to your husband, or I don't know, phone a friend, distract yourself, because it's really uncomfortable being with yourself and being with your own brain. What I've challenged them is we're going to do this journaling. Now, yesterday, the question was mapping out your story. Everything is a story. How you tell your story is a reflection of how your brain operates. Then we had this opportunity to journal, and it was actually wild for me. It was wild. I started and then the next question I said was, does your brain immediately operate from fear, self-protection, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? If so, why? What do you think needs to happen to create more safety here? I gave them some direction, and it was fascinating because I was able to see how much fear I have around these certain areas of my life. And as I just allowed myself to just release all of these thoughts in my brain, I saw some themes, some common Dara Thomason, fear, run away themes. I thought, oh, this is fascinating. I was able to really discover that. Now, today's class we talked about personality and self-sabotage. It was fascinating to have the chat inside the masterclass of women realizing how much their The fear of the rejection of their siblings, of their family, really kept them back. Another woman realized that she felt very alone. She's always felt very alone and neglected. What an impact that's had for her and her life. What starts happening is in these master classes, I've been given you a key that's unlocked these dusty boxes that you don't really want to open. And the part of you does, because you're like, maybe there's some treasures in those dusty boxes. But another part of you is really nervous because you're not sure if it's like old skeletons or things that you don't really want to deal with. And then what starts happening is you start getting direction because you have this awareness of what's really going on. Changing and evolving isn't so scary anymore. You actually realize there's a lot of power in uncovering and discovering these thoughts that are not necessarily that easy to come out. There's this really great young adult book series called Lockwood & Co. It's about these ghosts that get locked in the world. So they can't leave the world realm. They can't go into the spiritual realm. So they're stuck. One of the characters is a young girl who came from a family that didn't really believe in her. And they were a lower class family, didn't have a lot of ambition. She really wanted to become the best ghost catcher that there was. One of her best friends was also a ghost catcher, but didn't have a very good fate. And which actually she could decide if that was going to help her to be a better ghost catcher and to be excellent in what she did, or was she going to just go back to her family? She had to decide, was she going to use this tragedy of the loss of her friend and then she will avoid the growth? Or was she going to move into a different city and find a new opportunity and actually focus and do really, really well and become the best? It turns out she decided to face her fears, work through it all, and continually build her skill set. Spoiler alert, she was the big hero. The reason I tell this story is I had so much fun rooting her on and seeing all the challenges that she faced and admiring her courage. That is all possible for you. And you don't actually get to see that or understand that or recognize that unless you come to a masterclass. Because this is the problem. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how your personality is your personal reality. If you always wake up on the same side of the bed and do the same thing, brush your teeth, get dressed, eat the same breakfast, scroll on your phone, do the same things, you just become a living robot. This is just who you become. If that's who you want to be, fill your boots. But if you feel just like this girl that there's more and that you want to create more and you don't want to keep buying all the fabric and you don't want to keep putting on all the weight, coming to a masterclass is an opportunity for you to experience what it actually feels like to go into your own brain and to start rooting out, I didn't realize how much I held myself back. We're wired to want more. That's the human evolution. If you're ready to take a chance, I have an amazing masterclass on menopause that is life-changing. I have a lot of masterclasses. And in fact, when you join my membership, they're all in there. I want you to come. And even a webinar. It's 1 hour. You just get a sample to see what that feels like to actually spend time on your own brain. You are your best investment. The fact that you're watching or listening to this episode tells me that you're ready for some change and you're scared, and that's totally fine. That actually means a lot. If you're scared, even better. All right, stop wasting time. We got this. Register now. And if you want to take it one step further, book a curiosity call with me and let me help you see what is actually keeping you from being that fulfilled, happy person who you wanted to be. And I'll help you figure out why you're not.
If you aren't loving your current life and hear yourself saying things like, I should be happier, I should be getting more done, or question how productive and fulfilled you are, this podcast is for you. I'm Dara Thomason, professional quilter turned life coach for quilters, where I show you how to overcome obstacles like perfectionism, people pleasing, overeating, overcomplicating life, so that you can really start to enjoy your life by learning and using tools for your brain to help you transform your everyday living. Are you ready to make these changes? I'm ready to help. Let's start your transformation one UFO at a time.